started hearing whispers about Thrawn's return.
Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
Prolific Star Wars novel author Timothy Zahn has spoke for the first time about Thrawn's upcoming debut appearance in live action for the Ahsoka show. All the way back in 1991, Timothy Zahn and Lucasfilm released the first novel in the Thrawn trilogy. Heir to the Empire was set 5 years after the events of Return of the Jedi and dealt with heroes of the New Republic era going up against the fearsome Imperial remnants. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? That is exactly what the mandoverse is doing in this day and age with all of these new shows on Disney+, The Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, The Mandalorian, Rangers of the New Republic, and Skeleton Crew. In these Thrawn books, what's left of the Empire was spearheaded by the cold, calculated chiss strategist known as Grand Admiral Thrawn. Thrawn, of course, would come to figure heavily into the canon series Star Wars Rebels, and would also play a key role in the forthcoming Ahsoka show in live action. The Thrawn books, to clear things up, aren't a part of canon, not anymore, and are a part of Legends. However, what we're seeing with the Mandoverse and with what Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are doing is that they're recanonizing those pretty much with our new heroes, Ahsoka, Boba Fett, and Mando. Recently speaking to CloneWeb.com, Grand Admiral Thrawn creator and acclaimed author Timothy Zahn had discussed the news that his most famous Star Wars character will make the jump to live action in Ahsoka on Disney+. What does he think about it? Timothy Zahn had noted that he'd be a little afraid of Thrawn not being written correctly if series producers Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau were not involved, heavily praising this duo for their already current work on what the Mandoverse is and their overall vision, saying that, in full quote, "The danger is that the screenwriters write it badly. He is a tactician, always ahead of his enemies. Dave Filoni showed in Rebels that he understood the character, so I think everything will be fine, as long as Filoni and Jon Favreau remain at the helm." Ending the quote right there, this guy just probably agrees with just about every other Star Wars fan out there, and for what Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have done for Star Wars with the Mandoverse. But not just that, but also understanding the character, who this character is as well, is very important to know. You can't just take a character and throw them in there, or that you're rewriting the character, because they're not. And so recently during this year's Star Wars celebration, Timothy Zahn had revealed that he's offered to help out Filoni and Favreau in bringing the character to life, remarking that he has indeed met with Filoni regarding the direction of which the producer intends to move Thrawn in the live-action show, saying that, in quote, "And I am of course available to help them if needed. We only talked briefly about all of this, but Dave promised to meet the writers and discuss with them in the near future," says Timothy Zahn. Zahn also had recalled that he was told that Thrawn would be appearing in animation in Star Wars Rebels and how it was an exciting experience for him, saying that, in full quote, "Thrawn's return was very exciting for Star Wars Rebels. Lucasfilm called me to show me concept designs for Rebels, and at the same time we were discussing future novels about the character. It was then 8 months before the announcement of Grand Admiral's return at Star Wars Celebration in London in 2016 that they would be canonizing this character, and just overall sharing some of that excitement about what it was like to see your character that you created, put him on pages of a novel, and now you're seeing him being brought to life really here, for one thing through animation, but for another into the live action spectrum of things as well for the Ahsoka show." The author had stated that Rebels did his character justice, clarifying that Thrawn, who appeared in his books, is essentially the same man who was portrayed in the show, just in a different type of setting. As Zahn says, not much different between the original Thrawn and the Thrawn of this new timeline. It's really the same character in different geopolitical conditions, surrounded by different characters, but he hasn't changed. Ending that quote right there, really into the regards of that, of course, Star Wars Rebels is taking place in a little bit of a different time period compared for when those Thrawn books do take place. The Thrawn books take place 5 years after the events of the original trilogy, and in comparison, Star Wars Rebels takes roughly about 5 years before the events of the original trilogy. But now really moving forward, and with how we're going to see Thrawn in the Mandoverse, now we're really going to be seeing him how we saw him in the novels in the first place, as that is taking place 5 years after the events of the original trilogy. Furthermore, Zahn had spoke on the 3 in-universe, in-canon novels, that they're being titled Thrawn, Thrawn Alliances, and Thrawn Treason, that he had wrote for Lucasfilm that featured the Grand Admiral as their primary character, commenting that the publisher wanted the story to be inextricably connected to Star Wars Rebels, as an animated show, writing those books after the Star Wars Rebels show. As Zahn says, in full quote, Lucasfilm wanted to have these new books and to be connected to Rebels, so I tried to make as many connections as possible. They gave me the scripts for the episodes in advance, so that I was aware of the plots. For example, in the series, Governor Price fights against Sabine Wren. In the book, I expanded on Imperial's interest in combat. The goal is for everything to fit together. The second book takes place between Season 2 and Season 3 of Star Wars Rebels, and the third takes place during a period of the series where he fell off the camera in Season 4. Ending that quote right there in a way that the third installment, the third novel, takes place kind of at the same time as Season 4 of Rebels. Finally, looking ahead, Timothy Zahn explained that he's eager to take on more Star Wars writing work, in canon and in universe, and of course in this current day and age as well. Perhaps doing stories set between Rebels and Ahsoka. As Zahn had put it, there are things to be doing during this time. Having a couple of stories and books taking place in between the original trilogy of these characters, specifically of Thrawn and Ahsoka, the rest of the Ghost crew, and to really just overall help fill in some more of those gaps in between the canon here. And although the original trilogy really isn't that long in a different spectrum of things, it's really only around 2 to 3 years long, there of course is still a lot going on and a lot of stories to tell during that time. As he says in full quote, I would like to write some more novels, and we pitch ideas for Lucasfilm. As for Thrawn, there's a 9-year gap between the end of Rebels and the character's reappearance in the Ahsoka show. There are things to be doing during this time. I'll keep you up to date, he says, ending that quote right there. And of course, we're doing the same exact thing here on the channel. We're keeping you guys up to date with all of your Star Wars related news, leaks, rumors, theories, and breakdowns here on the channel, so if you guys are into any of that, join us here on the channel today by hitting that subscribe button. So this here all being said, it is clear that Zahn is extremely passionate about Thrawn and how he's used in the current canon and going forward in live action. But what exactly would the character's role be like going forward? Well, for starters, fans will surely know by now that Lars Mikkelsen, the actor who had voiced Thrawn originally in Star Wars Rebels, will be reprising the role in live action. An exciting prospect, to be sure, as Mikkelsen brought a distinctive icy vibe to the character in just the voice alone. Audiences for sure will also be aware that Ahsoka Tano has been searching for Thrawn's whereabouts for quite some time, perhaps to acquire clues of the location of Ezra Bridger as well. This is something that is very likely to play a big role in the Ahsoka show, and is what being said to be the main plot and point of Season 1 of the Ahsoka show. Beyond the Ahsoka series though, even, with Dave Filoni confirmed to be directing a new mandoverse crossover movie, logic would suggest that Lucasfilm is positioning Mikkelsen's Thrawn to be the big bad of that outing. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. What do you want to see with Thrawn in the Ahsoka show and within live action, and for the overall Mandoverse? I would love to hear what you guys all think in the comment section down below. Of course, this has been Unofficial Star Wars. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great one, guys. May the Force be with you as always. Peace out.